The ECP was gaining momentum in the pursuit of its Vision 2028, the local framework of action on international discipleship, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit the global village and turned our world upside down. Our country bore the brunt of this crisis as Bloomberg consistently ranked the Philippines as among the worst places to be in its list of 53 countries. The pandemic has taken a heavy toll on our economy, hitting the most vulnerable as self-rated poverty soared to more than 40% of our people. For the first quarter of this year, 12.2% of families continued to experience hunger. In a culture that thrives on communal life, the unprecedented cancellation of worship services and the disruption of regular ministries were traumatic for our people. However, it is this trauma which has unleashed the creative energies of our people and enabled the church to adapt to the situation. Family devotions, smaller group or paroch worship services, and house visitations, which were not traditional practices in pre-pandemic ECP, suddenly became regular pursuits in our congregations. Instead of losing or weakening the spiritual attachment to church buildings following their closure for long periods, our people have realized the values of these buildings as paramount to collective spiritual nurture and social upliftment. At no time in ECP has there ever been more than 15 church buildings constructed simultaneously at any given year. Yet, in 2021, 33 of such buildings were completed and consecrated, undergoing construction, or have just broken ground. Around 70% of these were funded by the congregations themselves from a variety of fundraising activities. As our church is not digitally equipped for online giving, the cancellation and subsequent limitation in in-person services brought grim budgetary projections. Yet, even with such prospect, the church waived rental incomes from many of its leased properties whose businesses were closed, adding to the expectation of budgetary deficits. At the end of 2020, however, actual deficits turned out to be minimal as our people held on to their envelopes while churches were closed and dropped them at the alms basket at the first opportunity to do so. More pleasantly surprising was the fact that in early 2021, 9 local congregations sought admission as full-fledged self-supporting parishes, one of the highest number of admission in any given year. At a time when communities and households were understandably closing their doors for fear of infection, the church opened wide its doors for medical frontliners and those who seek rest in quarantine. Our facilities and even church buildings were offered as vaccination centers. When out-of-work folks set up a begging station outside our National Cathedral gates, we welcomed them with various opportunities for income generation in our compounds and houses. We reached out to the economically marginalized and partnered with them to rehabilitate lost or damaged livelihoods or establish alternative sources of income, not by one-time relief provisions, but through a longer-term engagement and application of our asset-based development approach and our receivers-to-givers practice. As we move towards post-pandemic recovery, hundreds of families who partnered with us in the rehabilitation of lost or damaged livelihoods are passing on the blessings they have received from our engagement to other families in a growing spiral of receiving, giving back, and passing on. Our people contributed towards the relocation of a community turned into a no man's land by an earthquake in 2019. With public attention turned towards the pandemic, this community would have continued to live in a cramped evacuation center with no hope of relocation. But our local congregations all over the ECP gave what they can do and we were able to acquire a lot where, in partnership with other donors, 80 families built their homes. The pandemic turned out to be an impetus for new ways of doing mission. More significantly, it was a reset button for us to go back and reaffirm in a very profound way what are really important. The pause on the onslaught of individualism and materialism drowning the global village has provided the Church a rare opportunity to rebuild or enhance relationships, community, family, and the environment around fundamental Christian values that are now being better appreciated and lived out by our people in the face of the current crisis. All these have guided a freshly fermented spirituality of resilience based on an affirmation that when times are hard and resources are scarce, the Church must need to open and give more, it must need to share more, and must need to love more. This is what intentional discipleship is all about. Amen.